Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. Continual watching beyond this point may result in terminal face palming and a complete loss of wokeness. You have been warned.
Hey, welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. This show has, I got to tell you, has been a long time in the making. I mean, seriously, it's been a long time that I wanted to have this particular guest on. You may or may not know of him. The people that do a lot of the police auditing, I'm absolutely sure every single one of them knows this person. He goes by the name James Freeman. He has a pretty significant following on his main channel. I think he has like 2 or 3 other channels. And we have been trying to get together for quite some time to talk about something that I, for some reason, have a weird predilection for, weird disposition for. I mean, it's just odd. But for some reason, I actually like watching some police auditor videos. I know it's weird. It's so atypical because it's nothing that I really, do on my main channel. But for some reason, I find them to be not just, entertaining, but actually informative as far as like learning about rights and liberties and what the police can and cannot do. And so I got with James, who's somewhere in the middle of nowhere, literally like nowhere on the planet does he exist. I mean, you talk about off grid. That's James. But I got a hold of him and I brought him onto the show to kind of talk about some of the things that I've seen with some of these videos because I got questions. I got questions. So I brought him on and he's here somewhere in the ether sphere. James, you there?
Hey, what's up, Steve?
I'll do the intro. Hey, it's James Freeman. How do you say it?
Hey, everybody, it's James Freeman.
Yes, I love that. That's a great intro. I got to do that.
Thanks for bringing me on the show, man. This has been a long time coming.
It really honestly has. And it's so funny because, I had talked to you a while back and I swear to God, it was like, okay, we need to shut up now. We need to save something for on air.
Yes. Because we could have just gone on and on for hours, having a conversation. Yeah.
As people may notice, we're neither one of us are on camera. One, I just didn't feel like going on camera today. And you're all decked up. You're good to go, but you were like, I'm not going to go camera anyways either. So
I was naked when I first joined. And then I was like, well, in case I accidentally slip and accidentally turn the camera on, I'll just,
I got pics if anybody wants them. Contact me later. PayPal. Here's my PayPal. So anyways, first, kind of for my crowd, if anybody doesn't know you, which would be odd, but if they don't know you, kind of introduce yourself to my group here and what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, sure. So my name is James Freeman. That's not my real name, but that's what I go by on YouTube. And what do I do? Man, I guess I tell people that I document the downfall of society. But I do it by documenting police activity. I try to expand into more government accountability than just police. I try to go after politicians a little bit and expose them, but they're a lot harder to get to. And I'm lazy, so dirty cops are low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and plus, you have a lot of these political people that they do change a lot, but the ones of the old guard, the ones that have been around forever. I mean, like, what is there that you could put out that people already know about? I mean, like, we already know all the crap about Hillary Clinton. We all, we know a lot of the senator stuff, and now the Pelosi stuff's coming around with her husband. I don't find that to be much of interest because it's not as ubiquitous as like the police stuff, because police are everywhere. Police are in your neighborhood, right? And when I grew up, James, the police were supposed to be your friend. If you got a problem, you need help, you go to the police. Now, by calling the police, it seems like you're putting your life in danger.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's weird.
You know, I grew up the same way. I was taught the same thing, but I realized early on that while it certainly wasn't something you talked about, I realized it was not safe to call the police. And I grew up in the 90s. I'm pretty young. But yeah, I mean, it was a bad idea to start telling people that they should call government when they need help in the first place, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, unless something to me it's like, okay, maybe if it's obviously a matter of life and death, there's some, some major thing that needs to be resolved.
Sure.
But for the minor things, how many times have you seen minor things to escalate because police do not have de-escalation techniques trained to them very well? By the way, if you don't know what I do now, I do loss prevention, and loss prevention is you're heavily into de-escalation, obviously, right? But I don't think these police are trained to de-escalate things. So they come out for a very civil, thing, something very minor, and all of a sudden guns are drawn, kind of shit. It's like, what? Why would you be drawing weapons, so indiscriminately?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes down to some of their training that I've seen personally over the last year. I've gotten a little sneak peek. I'm trying to remember who it was that did the little short 15-minute documentary, but it was about police training and how it's basically fear-based training. And in one of the little clips, one of the guys training the new cadets says, are you ready and willing to shoot a kid, to shoot a grandma, and he says, if you're not, then you shouldn't come back here tomorrow. And so, they're literally amping them up to be scared of everything and everyone and shoot first and ask questions later. That's in their training, in their fear-based training.
That's weird because I was military and I've never heard anything like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you were in the military, if you did some of the things that police did, you probably would have been court-martialed.
Yeah, no, you have rules of engagement. Granted, I did serve 3 tours over in combat zones, but the only combat we ever even saw was like hostile planes flying in the area that we were in general quarters. And, I wasn't on the boots on the ground, obviously it was Navy. But, we still all trained how to fire weapons. You all have to take, firearm safety courses. I had a concealed weapons permit up in Seattle. And in no way would they train you like that, right? I mean, sure, you have to understand, obviously, if there's a situation where it's life or death and you may have to take a life, but that should not be the forefront of what your job function is, right? And especially when you need to do everything in your power to avoid something like that. But this seems to be, lately, that's their go-to. The go-to is, shoot first, then, ask questions later. And like with the whole Uvalde thing, they weren't even doing anything. They just sat around, and then the police mayor, the mayor or the police chief basically said, "Oh, I'm so glad that none of our officers were, hurt," and with like 19 children dead because they were too scared to go in.
Yes, absolutely. But you know what? Officer safety truly is number one, and I hope it's sad that like I say on my channel a lot, back the blue until it happens to you. And it's how unfortunate is it that something so extreme has to happen like that for people to realize that police are out of control and that officer safety has gotten out of control. I mean, when officer safety comes before children's safety, I mean, what more is it going to take for people to realize this is wrong?
It's not even an officer safety. I was always raised that adults protect children, right? I mean, I remember very vividly when I was a kid, I had hopped this wall and basically kind of went into an area where you're not really supposed to go in the community, right? In the residential area. And so one of the neighbors got all pissed off, came over to my house, and in the garage was telling my dad, he yelled at me, if I see you again, I'm going to shoot you. And I told my dad this, and my dad went over to his garage and basically said, if you ever say that to my son again, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. And my dad's not a violent man. Like seriously, not. And I was thinking to myself, holy shit, I had new respect for my dad, right? No respect.
Yeah.
But these police officers are sworn, even though they say they're sworn to protect the population. A lot of the state senates, like New York, had said that that's just a motto. It doesn't really apply. They don't have to do that. Okay, but they're still human beings with compassion. I'm not a sworn officer, but if I have to put my life in the line to save fucking 19 children, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like the fear training trained the humanity out of these cops, because as you saw, there were parents who were ready, willing, and even did rush into that building, and the parents that rushed in were unarmed, but they didn't care. They were willing to risk their lives to save children. And it's as if these police have had the humanity trained out of them, where, you know, the only thing that matters is their life, and everybody else can and will die for their safety.
And they got arrested. So they actually, well, they didn't fully arrest him, but they put him in handcuffs at least, right? I mean, and by the way, if you're in handcuffs, most of the time you are on almost a de facto arrest. Now, there are certain instances where it is a safety thing, so it's not always the case. But most of the time, if you have handcuffs on, I consider that to be a form of detainment and de facto arrest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they say it's not. I mean, like I said, for certain safeties, okay, yes, but that has to be very, 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 very extreme. So let me ask you, James, because some of the videos I watched lately, I found to be more disturbing than usual. It's, obviously, the shootings are just beyond disturbing. There's just no excuse for that whatsoever for those police not to go in and do something. But what about the auditors, right? Because the auditors go out and they basically say, hey, we wanted to exercise our First Amendment rights to photograph in public, which is actually, I think, a liberty, but they want to go exercise these things. So they go out and, you know, people, for some reason, freak the fuck out, even though we're filmed everywhere. Where I work, there's a lot of fucking cameras. Okay. I mean, a lot of cameras. And so they got to test this, and yet the police come out, they know that people are doing this, and yet they still try to bully them. They still try to get their ID. They still try to trespass them. They still try to arrest them. And there's recently just an auditor that literally was arrested for being on public property, and was doing nothing wrong, and they knew it, but they decided to basically trump up charges. I think it was was his name SoCal Auditor or something, if you're familiar with that.
Okay.
The specifics doesn't matter because it generally happens to a lot of them, right?
Yeah. And it's the same thing across the country. They consistently use the same tactics. I got to check that one out, actually, because as you know, there's hundreds of people out there doing this now. And so it is almost impossible to keep up with all of them. But yeah, it is the same thing happening all over. The police have gotten to a point where they realize, okay, legally, we can't hem them up for actually recording. And so, you know, they try to say that they're hemming you up for trespassing or disorderly conduct. You know, they make up some other fake false charge, and they think that we don't realize that, no, it's actually because you're recording. That's the whole reason you got called. That's the whole reason you're here. It has nothing to do with anything else. And because they're stupid, they think that everyone else is stupid too, and we actually believe their narrative that, you know, somebody trespassed on public property.
Well, and I mean, again, you know, there are always loopholes. There are always things where certain public property may not be available to the public at certain times, place, and manner. We all understand that. But
sure.
Go ahead.
And there was a perfect example of that with somebody recently where he decided that he was going to protest inside of City Hall after hours. And yes, so sure, there's definitely points where it's like, all right, you're being pretty stupid. You're going to get arrested and it's going to stick. But yeah, most of the time what they're doing, though, is they're trumping up absolute BS fake charges.
Oh, absolutely. Matt, like the one thing that they always seem to pull for some, you know, because it's kind of like a catch-all, is disorderly conduct, right? Because the laws are written very vague of what that actually entails. And so they, for some reason, and by the way, I've never seen one of these that is lawful, but you have much more experience in that area, but I've never seen where they've come out, there is no crime being committed, none. They ask for ID, which is in a non-stop and identify state. They are not given the ID, and then they come up with, oh, now you're disorderly conduct, or you're interfering with the police investigation, and those charges. There's no such thing in that. That's not a crime.
And by the way, as far as a stop and ID state, I don't want anyone to think that there's any such thing as a stop and ID state. What it is what's referred to as a stop and ID state means that it's a state where you have to give ID if you're suspected of a crime. And then states that are not called stop and ID states, you only have to give ID if you're under arrest. But people mistakenly think that stop and ID means the cops can just stop an ID
at any time.
Always,
right.
Always, no matter what, has to be reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime in any state.
That's a good point. Yes. Very good point. I hadn't even considered that, but yes, you're absolutely right. In every state, there has to be at least reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime being committed to ID. They can't just walk up to you and say, "Can I see your papers?"
Right. Right. And then the states that are considered not stop and ID states are ones like Texas, and I believe Arizona is one of them also, where you don't even have to ID unless you're legally and lawfully under arrest.
Right. Right.
Which causes a lot of that stuff going on in Texas where people get pulled over and they refuse to give ID because technically the law says unless you're arrested, you don't have to, even for a traffic infraction. So I guess we won't dive into that rabbit hole, though.
But what happens when they arrest you on a trumped up charge like disturbing the peace or, you know, interfering with a police investigation, trespassing, things of that nature? They've arrested you, even though they know it's not going to stick, but they still can get your ID out of that.
Yep, that's right. And even knowing it's not going to stick, there's actually no consequence for the officer illegally and unlawfully arresting you. And at the very least, you're going to spend your time and effort fighting the charge and possibly a lot of money. There's been one instance where I was arrested on a federal case, slapped with 4 federal charges and spent actually a very small amount of money for what it was, about $15,000 fighting those charges.
That's not a small amount of money.
I mean, you know what?
But comparative, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
I've spent $10,000 on legal fees, and for people that have actually, you know, slandered me and have stolen from me, like this channel that one time, right? You're well familiar with the history of this channel. So I had to spend money for that court case. And yeah, it is expensive fighting things when you're in the right. When you are legally in the right, it still costs money in order to prove it and to get justice. And so when somebody arrests you, they know, like you said, nothing's going to happen to them. They, at the very, very, very least, they might get a slap on the wrist. If really they push it, they might get a paper, or, you know, a disciplinary paper, which I highly doubt. But nothing happens to them because of what is known as qualified immunity. Correct?
Somewhat. I think there's a lot of reasons that nothing happens to them. Qualified immunity makes them immune from a lawsuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as I understand it, I believe that it just makes them immune from a lawsuit.
From personal liability.
Right.
Yeah.
Financially. But even still, there's problems beyond that, including that, you know, departments investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing. So besides qualified immunity making it difficult to sue them sometimes, besides that, they're likely not even going to get a bad mark in their likely not going to be reprimanded.
Right.
So it's on a lot of different levels that there's zero accountability.
Yeah, so there's no accountability within the police force. There's no accountability within the public eye. There's no accountability for the person that has had to spend time and money fighting trumped up charges, because again, almost always they're going to end up, you know, they might get things dismissed, but that's about the extent that it's going to go. Now, very, very rarely does somebody actually get some kind of like windfall. And, you know, and normally you're only going to get some kind of settlement if somebody's been injured. Like there was recently a guy that was, he was, I think it was at a Walmart or somewhere, or I can't remember the store, it's irrelevant, but there was actually another guy that fit the description. And so they went down there. The guy that they were talking to had a warrant out for his arrest, but they mistook this other guy walking down the street from the place as having a warrant. One of the officers stopped him. Was having what was called a mutual contact.
Yeah.
So they were just talking. He wasn't under arrest, anything like that. And all of a sudden, this other cop came in, drove in behind him, snuck up in back of him, bear hugged him, and threw him to the ground forcefully. Broke his wrist. You saw this. So broke his wrist. He had one. He did get a settlement. I mean, in fact, they were like, they found out they had fucked up, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You want an ambulance?" And he's like, "No, I just want to get out of here." Smart move by him, probably.
Yep.
And he was scared to death of these officers. He ended up did filing. He did get like what $250,000 judgment or something. You know.
Yeah, I think this case was actually a couple years old, but I think Lackluster, I think, just re-highlighted it the other day.
Yes.
And he does an excellent job of highlighting cases. I don't care if it happened yesterday or 10 years ago. You know,
Lackluster's amazing.
On Lackluster.
Yeah. I am a huge fan. I reached out to him once, but never got a response. And that's probably because, you know, he probably gets a lot of stuff. But I'm a huge fan of Lackluster and Audit the Audit. I really like the way they put forth the information.
No, Lackluster told me he hates you. I'm kidding. I'm glad you realize that's a joke.
Yeah, well, but you do know Lackluster. That's where you name dropped him. Yeah, my buddy Lackluster. You know, that dude has one incredible radio voice, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. I'm jealous.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, so I mean, for the most part, when people go out there and these auditors are going out there, how do they like survive? Because again, most of them are not going to get some windfall, and I don't think a lot of them are going out there with the expectation that they're going to sue. Maybe obviously like Asgazi Press.
Amagansett?
Yep, Amagansett Press. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I did a video with one of his videos, and he stopped by with his son. And they seem to like it. They have sued and won minor amounts. But I don't think that either one of them really go out there to go, oh, I'm just going to go out there to try to get something to happen to sue. I don't think that's their intent. So what is the intent of these First Amendment auditors when they're going out there and they know they can get arrested? Hell, they know they can get shot if especially if they're like exercising their Second Amendment as well.
Sure. Actually, one of the reasons that I didn't even want to come on the show the first time you guys asked me was because I didn't want to speak for everybody else, because I'm a lot different than a lot of these other guys. But I've started to realize over the years that I think most of us have different motives. We may have some motives in common, but a lot of us have different motives. Like I said, one of mine is to document the downfall. But it really is different for everybody. Some guys just want to show what's going on, nothing more and nothing less. Some guys want to change legislation or get rid of things like qualified immunity. Some people are just so pissed off at the police that they just want to retaliate against the police and go out there and cuss at them. It really is different for everybody.
Yeah,
I think.
No, I agree with you on that. And the ones that just go out there and curse at the police, I find them to be of no value. I don't watch those particular ones. Because what purpose are they serving other than making themselves feel better? Okay. But the ones that go out there and really do educate and say, look, we are exercising a right, or technically it is a liberty, but we're exercising our right to do this. And, when you have the police that are so paranoid about being photographed because, 20, 30, 40 years ago, they didn't have all these cameras. They didn't have the body cameras. Think of the shit that they must have gotten away with.
Yep. They sure did.
And they sure did.
Even today, I think we can see that some of the older guys are used to not having cameras. I've been watching this one cop's body cam footage, a ton of it over the last few weeks, because the city is just giving us everything that every call this guy's ever gone on. And he has this habit of creating narratives, and he does it verbally even when his camera is going. So he goes in and he batters a woman, throws her around, rips her shirt, and then goes back later and tries to tell the story for his camera about what happened when it has nothing to do with what actually happened. And so these are the cops that are used to being able to create a narrative without a camera ever being there. And so it shows me it's so clearly how it actually used to go. It used to be that what this cop was saying into the camera was the truth. Period. End of story.
Or what they wrote in a report. Or what they wrote in a report, right? If the cop wrote in a report, that had heavy influence with the court. And are you talking about the cop that was giving a ticket and a car drove by and he got in his car, he followed the woman home?
No, not that one.
Do you know what I'm talking about? That one? Yeah, look up that one. So this cop, this cop got long story, too long didn't read version. He got fired, but he was given a ticket on a residential area, and a car, not even driving fast, just passed him. For some reason, he decided to get him back at that car from a very long distance, not have sirens, was not code 3, nothing like that. Followed her home, stopped her and saying, "Hey, I tried to pull you over," and because he said he had a felony elude, which was bullshit.
Right, I do remember this one.
Tackled her to the ground, ripped her top off, so she was exposed. And then when the cops all came, he completely changed the story that didn't match from his own own body cam and own video cam from the car. But had they not had that, he could have put down whatever he wanted into that report.
Yep, absolutely.
How does that not
I do remember
people?
that one.
How does that not scare the shit out of people, man?
I think that some people intentionally stick their head in the sand. You were talking earlier about how we both kind of grew up being taught, when you need help, you go to the police or you call the police or whatever. And I think there's some people we were just so heavily indoctrinated into that it's hard to let it go.
That's probably true. And look, I'm certainly not bashing police. I think police have a hell of a job, and the good police, just like Asgazi Press says, the problem with policing is bad police. That's one of the most dangerous things for good police is bad police. So it's not like I hate the police or fuck the police or anything like that. I have that most respect for them when they're doing their job properly.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. I think it may have been Washington Post. I hope I'm giving the right place credit. That ran a story about a month or two ago about the bad cops. And I was getting to a point, because I only have interactions mostly with bad cops, that I was like, man, where are the good cops? But this story showed that um, most of the cops that are being sued, it's the same cops over and over and over again. More than half of the lawsuits in the US that settled over the last, I think it was 10 years or 20 years, were repeat offenders, cops that were being sued multiple times. So it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, wow, there really is a small handful of them that are absolutely horrible, but for some reason, we can't get rid of them. And therefore, they taint the image of all the other cops.
Yeah, I do think it's a minority, absolute minority. I think it's probably a very small group. That's why I was not want anybody to think I'm making sweeping generalizations. I'm certainly not. It is the small minority of cops that I think that are doing that, but it does weigh heavily. It does influence. It does corrupt. It does shine, a bunch of shit all over fucking everybody else. I mean, it just makes this like a splat, So, I mean, same thing with the military, right? In the military, if you have a shitlord, if you have a Blue Falcon, you have somebody who's just, not doing his job, it makes everybody else look bad, right? The whole, and by the way, you get punished, it's in the military, especially like in boot camp. If somebody does something wrong, everybody gets fucked. Everybody.
Yeah, good old, yep.
And the reason they do that is because they want people to self-police. They want people to go, hey, look, I don't want to fucking get fucked because you did something stupid.
Right. And, I think one of the biggest problems with police, too, is that even though it may be a small number of people that are truly acting out, it's almost dangerous for cops to basically snitch, to cross the thin blue line. And we've seen a number of instances where it has happened. There was the female officer in Florida that pulled over another officer for doing 110 miles an hour on the freeway. And after he tried to flee, finally pulled over, and she held him at gunpoint. She ended up having to quit her job because of all the harassment from the other cops, that she would have the nerve to pull over a cop.
Yep.
She ended up quitting. And over the next 2 years, officers illegally used that NCIC system to look her up dozens of times, parked in front of her house, ordered pizzas to her house, harassed her for years. And so, I mean, when that's what happens to the small minority of cops who are actually willing to cross the thin blue line and snitch on a dirty pig, it's understandable why none of them are willing to do anything.
Yeah, no, I look, this happens on the internet as well. People know firsthand I have stuck my neck out and I've got it chopped off for doing the right thing. Does that mean I'm going to stop doing it? Probably not, but I am a little more wise over the last 8 years of being on YouTube, right? And so, except for probably having you on today, but whatever. Should bite me in the ass at some point. But yeah, so yeah, I can definitely understand why people don't want to go against the grain, because there are sociopaths in every group. There are sociopaths on the internet that will just go after you for the sake of going after you because they enjoy it, because they get off on it, and they threaten people. And that's what happened, in that particular case, is that these people doing that stuff, I'm sorry, they have to be has to be some psychopathy there. They have to be sociopaths. Nobody in the right mind would do that. Nobody would say, oh, I'm going to harass this person merely because they did the right thing, unless you're a shitty person.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, right? I mean, you got to be a shitty person. Okay, so two things real quick, because I don't want to move past it. You had said something that you had a slightly different take on qualified immunity than me a while back.
Yes.
So I want to know, because we were saving this. So I'm so excited for this.
So while I think that qualified immunity should be abolished, I think way more importantly is that qualified immunity allows you to sue cops. But I think what's way more important is that cops get charged criminally for their crimes. Most of the time when people are trying to sue the police, the circumstance, in the circumstance, the cop actually didn't just violate someone's rights. They committed a crime, whether it's battery, aggravated assault, kidnapping, whatever it may be. They committed an actual crime that if any other human being had done what that cop did, it was definitely illegal. It was unlawful. They weren't acting within their authority to make a lawful arrest. It's a crime. I think that the real solution is not just making it so you can sue a dirty cop, but so that they are held accountable equally the same way that you and I are. If I commit a crime, if I beat the shit out of some woman, I'm going to jail for it and I'm getting charged for it. And It should be the same thing for police.
Oh,
The badge
I
shouldn't
don't
make
think we're
it so
that.
they can beat people.
Yeah, I don't think we're that far apart on that actually. Then, but I will have a little bit of caveats to see what you think. Okay, first, that had just recently happened. Do you remember the cop that? I do not know how this happened. I don't know what her mental state was. I don't know, but she had drawn her taser. She drawn her weapon, thinking it was her taser.
Yes.
And she's like taser, 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 and she ends up shooting the guy, killing him.
Kim Potter.
Kim Potter, that was her name. Yes. Now, here, I've watched that footage a few times, and from what it seems to me, and again, I don't know how she made that mistake, but it did seem like it was an honest mistake. You know, and I mean that as something happened, something in her mind where it was not willful that she meant to shoot somebody. So it was negligent, right? Definitely negligent, but there has to be a mitigating factor. So in circumstances like that, that's not the kind of person I want to see be really, really punished, right? And I think she was found convicted. She was convicted. I don't know how many years she got, but I mean, that was to me just a high stress. I don't want to see good people because they make an honest mistake go to prison. What I want to see are cops like that dipshit that fucking went behind that one guy and tackled him to the ground, breaking his wrist for no reason. That guy deserves to be in prison.
Yes. He deserves to be charged for battery, for assault.
100%.
The same as either one of us. And actually, since you mentioned that Kim Potter case, she killed Dante Wright. And just recently, Dante Wright's mother was recording the police. After what happened to her son, she said, you know what? Now when I see police, I'm going to record them. She saw a traffic stop from the other side of the highway. She's recording them. This cop crosses a highway, comes over to her, grabs her, takes her phone, and pushes her.
Wow.
Now, so it seems honestly more often that cops kind of are held accountable in the case of a murder, in an extreme case, that I think murder is the most extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not held accountable on these smaller instances where, oh, well, he just tackled somebody. It's no big deal. He just stole somebody's phone and pushed him. It's no big deal. Like, dude, if me and you did that, we'd be doing time.
Well, you've already you have done some time because of things, right? But yeah, so I think we're on board on that, or at least I agree with you that absolutely they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, especially when it goes beyond just even simple negligence. When they know they're doing something, completely like that guy. I'm sorry, there's no justification what that guy did. And the other example, and I'm sure you remember it, was that older lady that had dementia that was walking from, again, I think it was in Walmart, and they thought she may have stolen something. And that cop did not have the wherewithal nor the training to recognize somebody in a dementia state that did not have their faculties with them. And they decided to basically just throw her down to the ground. What I think she dislocated like a shoulder or broke rib. I don't remember the medical things, but
I believe they broke her arm. I think.
Yeah, whatever it was. And I'm sorry, there could be no ethical or moral or lawful reason for that to ever have happened. None.
Right.
Zero.
And actually, that is a case where I believe they did criminally charge him. And
I think
I don't know if that's gone to trial yet or if he's been convicted. But I mean, that's what I want to see all the time. If the cop was charged criminally every time he grabbed somebody's phone for recording them or pushed them, I guarantee that we don't even qualified immunity would be totally irrelevant. They would stop now.
Yeah, especially if they had paid for it out of their own pocket. But yeah, what happens when these auditors, like I've seen that happen. I've seen auditors go out there and, they got like a GoPro or a nice camera or whatever. And basically the cop just takes it, throws it on the ground, breaks it and goes, oh, well. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute. If I went up to a cop and took his camera, threw it to the ground, I'm going to be in handcuffs. What's the difference? Somebody explain. I'm serious. I really want somebody to explain to me this freaking difference. I understand that when you have a badge and you have authority, you have special privileges. I get this. There's nothing wrong with that. We give doctors special privileges every day to make life and death decisions. We give those same things to judges. We give them to officers. But we do not allow them to willfully break the law.
Well, I think that that's where a lot of this really stems from. I don't personally believe that cops were ever supposed to have any special privileges, rights, privileges, whatever you want to call them. I kind of was under the impression that we created a government so that we could delegate things out, because I have the right to protect my private property and do what I need to do that. I also have the right to delegate that duty out to someone such as a police officer. And so, in my view, that police officer never has any right to do anything that I don't have a right to do.
Well,
In other words, if someone's breaking into my home, I have a right to defend it. But, if somebody is recording me from a public sidewalk, I don't have the right to punch them and smash their phone. So, the cop doesn't either.
yeah, maybe privilege isn't the right word, so to speak. We afford them decision-making abilities and allowances, so to speak. Again, you can't go into a judge's chamber unless you're a judge or have been invited by the judge or some legal reason to be there, right? I mean, you just don't have a right to go into there. So, when I say privilege, I just mean that job functions require a certain amount of things that you are able to do that maybe somebody else isn't able to do, right? But you're not really restricting anybody's rights, right? But you're not saying, hey, you don't have the right to protest, you don't have the right to free speech, you just don't have the right to do it, in my home. You don't have the right to do it in the judge's chambers. You don't have to do it in the city council after hours kind of stuff. So it's not really restricting their right, but we do at least give them afford them the decision-making abilities to, if they need to, take a life. But you know what? If you think about it, James, I guess we all have that same decision-making abilities, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, absolutely. And that's why I say there really shouldn't be a difference. I know what I can and can't do to people. And I know if you're trying to mug me, that I have a right to self-defense. But I don't,
So how come we don't see people running around with guns all the time shooting people? I had carried a gun. I've never had to draw it.
Yeah, because most of us don't actually want to start shit.
I've never had a desire to shoot anybody. Never.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have never liked that. I mean, would I? Yes. I would fucking kill somebody in a heartbeat if I felt like I was being threatened or my daughter was being threatened. Damn right. But it's nothing that I would ever want to do, right?
And I think I would assume, I could be wrong, that you would try every avenue possible before doing that. De-escalation, walk away from a fight, even if you're right,
Well, fuck yeah. Well, I mean, you're making a decision that's going to affect you the rest of your life. I mean, if you shoot somebody, even if you're in the right, there's going to be fucking major consequences.
Yep.
But if it came down to that in my life or my daughter's life or something like that, those are consequences I have to accept,
Right.
But I'm not going to do it over a stolen wallet or something.
I would agree. And I think in some states it may even be legal to kill somebody over a stolen wallet. I, like you personally, would not. I would kill to protect my own life or the life of my family. Yeah, I agree. I would not do it to protect property, only to protect life.
I don't know of any state that has property laws. Even with Kyle Rittenhouse, they had talked about at some point in time when he was supposedly watching people looting or something like that. He said something to the effect he wishes has his rifle, which the prosecutor tried to dishonestly try to get into the case by bringing that up, even though it was a motion in limine, which was a motion prior to the case that they couldn't because it was prejudicial, because he was in that statement saying that he was willing to shoot somebody over property, which you can't do, and by the way, that prosecutor was shit. If anybody watched that case.
But he was right about that.
Well, he was okay. So I'm not a legal expert, not ever claiming to be, but I do follow all this stuff. He was right in the fact that I think Kyle Rittenhouse was willing to kill somebody for property. I think that was the case, but because of the motion in limine, he was not able to actually bring that in forth in front of the jury, because the judge had already ruled against him doing that, and he was arguing, oh well, you've opened the door for that, and he's like, no. The judge says, I've opened the door that I could reevaluate that later on, but that doesn't give you as the prosecutor, the leeway to bring it up, by yourself to the jury, right? And it just made him look really bad.
Yeah, and even with Kyle Rittenhouse saying that previously, a lot of people say a lot of things. I've got a lot of friends who are like, "Oh, I would shoot him." No, you wouldn't.
Right.
You're full of shit. You're just trying to, act like a tough guy. You wouldn't, and I'm glad you wouldn't. But
yeah, but what scares me is some of the people really would. I mean, people have killed each other for fucking far left, for stolen gumballs and shit. You took my candy, pop. I'm from L.A., man. I was born in West Hollywood, man. I grew up not too far from Compton and Watts and Hawaiian Gardens, and those people don't mess around with their shit. I'll tell you. I've been outside the school where people were shooting. I remember very specifically.
For a pair of shoes?
No, I don't know what the hell they were fighting over, but it was after school, and there was a park next to the high school, and I remember there was a fence, about a 4-foot fence, those typical fences, and these guys were fighting, and all of a sudden somebody whipped out a gun, which I realized later was probably a .22 caliber, but started firing it in the air, and you never seen people disperse so quickly in their life. I mean, I hopped the fence so quickly that I didn't know I had the ability to do that. I mean, I swear to God, it was like I remember it vividly. And I hopped this fence, and I'm just running, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting the shit out of here. But it was over a fight. I don't know what the fight was about, but yes, you don't know nowadays.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah.
I mean, by the way, you don't do Second Amendment auditing, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah. You'd be killed by now.
I stay armed, but I don't take it out. I don't take it out and make it known that I have it unless I'm going to use it, which is why you've never seen me.
Yeah.
And I'm all for people exercising their rights, but that's just where I'm at. If it's out, it's being used.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had my concealed weapons permit. I used to go to the Denny's in Washington, and we knew all the law enforcement, and they knew I carried. I talked and had coffee with them, a bunch of times, and but it was no big deal, right? But I never had to brandish it. I never had to show it.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
What do you think about people open carrying rifles?
Rifles or or pistols?
Rifles.
Okay, so there's a couple of things with rifles. One, it's are you talking about like a hunting rifle and AR-15?
I'd say either or.
Okay, so as you know, like in Florida, right? In the statutes, you can open carry a rifle, including an AR-15, if you're going from or going away from or during fishing.
Right.
Right. Which is really loose in the law, okay? Because I can say, hey, I'm walking from my house to the beach to go fishing, and on the way, 20 miles, down 20 miles, I'm going to carry my gun. But I don't particularly have a problem with open carry of hunting rifles. Why? Because again, in certain states, a lot of people hunt, right? I don't know why you need a hunting rifle in downtown LA. I don't know why you need an AR-15 in downtown LA. Personally, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me on this, I don't think anybody should have an AR-15 that's not military trained or has reasons to have such a weapon. I know it's not a sniper. I know it's not a sniper rifle.
I'll turn it on my camera. Like one of these, or?
Yes.
I have one right next to me.
What is that? A 300?
What's that?
Was that one of those? What are they called? 300? What the hell is the name of those? What?
It's an AR-15 chambered in 5.56.
I'm trying to think of the model number I was looking at the other day when I was looking up something. Because what was it that Rittenhouse had?
I have no idea. I don't know. I think he had an AR-15.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm fine with people. Okay, so you have it, but you're not open carrying it down the street, right?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And that's kind of why I wanted to ask you.
That's kind of a big difference, right? If you want to use it for home protection, I don't give a shit. It's your property, But I can't imagine any reason why you would need such a weapon in downtown LA.
Yeah, you may be shocked to hear me say this, but look, you got the right to do it. But if I see you open carrying a rifle like that down the road, I'm at least going to be
concerned.
I'm going to keep my eye on you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take my eyes off of you.
Thank you in my live chat. 300 blackout is what I was thinking of. Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I agree with you, right? I mean, if I see somebody with a AR-15, I'm going to be a little concerned, especially with all the shootings lately, and I think that's a human aspect. I think that's a natural reason to say, why is this guy carrying this type of weapon? Where they're at, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So
that's how I personally feel about it. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't even try to take away their right to do it. Honestly, I really wouldn't. But if I see you doing it, I'm keeping my eye on you. I'm not taking my eye off of you because I don't see any. Anyways.
Well, it makes sense though. Look, here's the way I look at it. Freedom of speech, right? For example, we all know freedom of speech doesn't mean that there's no consequences by certain things that which you say. And even though it might be completely legal, it might be be something that obviously the government can't, arrest you for, but there's consequences if you want to exercise your freedom of speech. It's just a function of the fact that what you say might have consequences. Carrying an AR-15 down the street, I'm sorry, but you're putting your life in jeopardy. There might be consequences. Whether it be justified or not, I guarantee it puts police on high alert. and they're more, and you do not want police on high alert. I think it's really stupid. That's not, I don't see how, yes, you can exercise your Second Amendment right, and I get that. But I think that doing something like that goes beyond just auditing. I think they're putting themselves in danger by doing such a thing.
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
You know, even with First Amendment stuff, I think that a lot of people fail to realize that not everybody gives a shit about your rights. I've gone out and worked with guys who, you know, they'll tell the cops, my rights, I can do this, it's legal. But then I've been in Albuquerque where we're also dealing with there's this group of homeless people that does not like to be recorded. Native American folks, they're always in the same area. They basically live in this alley, and they don't like to be recorded. Now, sure, you have a right to record them, but they've usually got knives on them, and I've seen them attack people. So yes, you've got the right to do it, but you need to understand that not everybody's going to say, "Oh, okay,
right,
it's his right,
right,
no big deal."
Okay, do you remember that one guy that was filming outside of a mentally? It was like for a place for like mentally unwell people. I can't remember the exact place, but it was elderly people, and many of them had mental health conditions. And yeah, you have a right to film outside of that, but obviously these people didn't know what was going on. They were very scared. What purpose does that serve?
Yeah,
that and even the First Amendment auditors even they said, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing that. So what's the difference? I mean, yes, you have the right to do it, but what are you serving by scaring elderly people that are, you know, have you know, dissociative states and not understanding what's going on? I don't see how that serves anybody. If you want to go First Amendment audit, do it, you know, in places that are like of the government buildings, stuff like that. That's great. Love that.
Yeah. That's why I've tried to actually separate myself from the word auditor, because, you know, it's not only that, but people have gone and recorded at churches, and don't get me wrong, perfectly legal. Go for it. Car lots, you know, car dealerships, like, I mean, all kinds of random private businesses.
Yeah, the bike dealership guy. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh God, was he pissed?
And I'm like, dude, you got the right to do it. But, you know, my thing why I try to separate myself from this auditor thing is because my goal was to expose government and,
right,
you know, not just to exercise my rights. And that's why I say, you know, different people do have different goals, and that's fine. They can legally go out and record people from a public sidewalk at a car dealership, you know, trying to sell cars.
No, absolutely.
But I don't want to be a part of it.
Right. I don't want to mess with people's businesses. Now, I can understand maybe if one of those businesses was a contractor with the government.
Yes.
Fine. Knock yourself out. Go
Lockheed Martin.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Combustion Engineering, General Electric, Westinghouse. Go for it. Those buildings, absolutely. Those have contractors for the government. Therefore, I have no issue with that. But if you're going to go to some fucking, you know, mom and pop, you know, restaurant to film them just to see what they say, I don't know. I think that's just, it doesn't serve any useful purpose, you know?
I agree. It's legal, it's lawful, and it's a good way to start a fight if that's what you want.
Yeah. And by the way, okay, so unbeknownst to Mr. James Freeman, not his real name, I have put the link. I have put the link in the video description. So if anybody would like to come in and challenge either one of us on anything we've said to date, or talk about anything, bring it on. Bring it on. I think James can actually, you know, kind of fend for himself. So I've opened it up, James. Be prepared.
Oh boy, I told you, no opposing opinions. Yes, I can't handle it.
He was like, Steve, man, I'm really kind of sensitive to this stuff, and I really don't want anybody to come in and talk to me because they might disagree with me.
Right, and then my feelings would be hurt. I'd have to rage quit.
You were so emotional. Jesus. Oh, my God. I doubt anybody will, but, you know, I'm going to leave it open. Again, we're not on camera, so it doesn't really matter. I know I got the eject button, but come on in. By the way, also, we are taking questions from the live chat. I am looking out there. I see some familiar names. I see some new names. Hi, everybody out there that's new. Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. One of my moderators, a couple of my moderators have some interesting things to say. Heat Shell says, Tech Shooter and had a Fusion MP4 and Daniel Defense MP4 until some Twitter loon started screaming AR-15 again. There's absolutely nothing wrong with an AR-15, and there's plenty of benefits. Oh yeah, no, look, I agree with that. Look, that's not the best gun in the world. And there are better ones.
An AK-47 is definitely far superior.
But AK-47 is military. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, you can still get your hands on them though, and
sure.
And I far prefer them to an AR-15 or an M16.
Well, I would imagine so.
I mean, I believe the only reason that the U.S. was using the M16 rather than the far superior AK-47 is because it sounded different, right? And so in Vietnam, they wanted to be able to differentiate friendly fire versus enemy fire. And so that's, from what I've been told, I don't know if that's true at all.
Never heard of
From what
that
I've been
before.
told, that was the whole reason they used the inferior M16.
Yeah, like my friend John says, who needs 30 plus rounds for hunting or self-protection? Yeah, pretty much. I do think it's a bit much.
Whoa, wait a second. Let me tell you right now, why do you need 30 rounds for self-protection? Have you ever seen a SWAT raid on somebody's house?
Well, if you're shooting back a SWAT, you're going to die. You're not going to survive anyways. 30 rounds ain't going to matter. On that point, you're just taking them out with you. You're done.
That's a good argument for me needing landmines as well. Thank you, Steve.
You probably got nukes, don't you, man? You don't have to answer that question.
I wouldn't go near that. I'd hurt myself.
Let's see here. Someone that's a bad shot. Somebody said, "Why do you need 30 rounds?" Somebody, yeah, bro. Look. I really suck at hunting deer, man. It takes me 30 rounds. I'm not a hunter though. Ash Scott says, "Don't need full auto to hunt,ch which is true. I don't think it's even legal to hunt with full auto, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? I think you can.
Not only that, but I don't know, because I only have a very small number of guns for very specific purposes. So, but I don't you have to have a tax stamp to have a full auto firearm anyway?
You have to have a dealer license. You have to have some kind of dealer license to deal with them, or some kind of stamp. Yeah, I don't remember the exact specificities of it, but it is a different regulation than a semi-automatic or a single shot.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, some weapons are, in fact, like for example, I don't think the average citizen can go out and just go purchase an MP4 or AK. Was it
AK-47?
AK-47. Yeah, I don't think I don't think that you just kind of go, oh, okay, I think I'm going to purchase one of those, because those are specific. Can you? If you don't have a dealer license?
I believe as long as it's not full auto, I believe you can.
Okay, well that might be the case. Yeah, okay, yeah, because if it's been converted, then obviously, if it's like strictly in semi-automatic, then I guess maybe you can. But in full auto, I'm pretty sure you have to have a dealer's license to do that.
Yeah, but again, and it's not actually illegal to own any firearm. I don't think there's any firearms that are just outright illegal to own, other than maybe nukes. You can check out that video on the most armed guy in America, though. I can't remember if he's in Nevada or Colorado, but I mean, he's got armed, weaponized tanks, grenades, landmine. I mean, he's got everything.
Like to have in your possession on your own property.
Yeah, none of it's illegal to have. It's just a matter of you have to be rich to have it, because you have to be able to afford the tax stamp. That's all it is. It's just a tax stamp, and you can own, as far as I know, anything other than nukes.
And you can't be a felon.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And this guy accidentally killed his wife with an explosive too, because he's so heavily armed.
No, I think I remember seeing something like that. The most heavenly guy in America.
Yeah,
I remember seeing something along those lines. Yeah, he has. Does he have like M1 Abrams or something?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it's armed. Yeah. Wow, that's somebody who you just don't want to break into their house, do you?
And I'm not even saying necessarily, oh, somebody needs this or somebody does. And I'm just saying that it's really not illegal to have anything. It's just a matter of if you're wealthy enough to be allowed to.
And by the way, when you have a friend, Colorado Donkey Watch says he only supports you because you happen to be gay.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah. He's he doesn't stop sending me Snapchats.
Before we went on air, James was all over me, hitting on me, and I kept rebuffing his advances, but he,
I'll turn him someday.
You'll get him to go full gay. Now, we are definitely LGBTQ plus friendly here, so but I happen to be straight, so
Donkey can stay.
Donkey can stay. Yes, that's okay. He likes you.
Maybe, yeah, I like him too.
Yeah. Now, does he do auditing?
He's got some good videos out there. Yes.
Come on in, Donkey Watch. Yeah, constitutional auditor. Veterans have the classification to own one. Again, I'm not familiar with that. I am a veteran. I am actually a VFW veteran. I have the Armed Services. The Armed Services Expedition Medal that I got over in off the coast of Kuwait. But as far as like owning weapons, I don't think as a veteran I have any special things that I'm aware of. Well, I'd go gay for James too. I mean, I mean, have you seen his beard? This part is actually true. I swear to God, I'm not even fucking with you guys. Straight up true. James, before we get on air, was sitting there and he was just tonicking up with oiling his magnificent beard, just stroking it. And I'm like, damn, dude, yeah. If I was gay, damn right. Seriously, were you not just like preening yourself? Go ahead, check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure if we were or weren't going to use cameras, and I was like, you know what, dude, I got to be ready just in case. So, yeah, I hadn't even gotten ready today. I'm sitting in front of my computer, literally in shorts and nothing else, editing videos. I'm like, all right, I got to get my hair done. I got to oil up my beard. I got to brush. So yeah, I was grooming myself right in front of Steve.
He was grooming himself. And then he was just like, he's grooming me to go gay for him, I guess, or something. Right?
That's exactly.
By the way, I noticed something.
As a mirror.
Yeah, I noticed something, James. Nobody's wanted to come in to challenge you so far. That must mean they all agree with you. That's the way it works.
Well, yeah, come up to agree, challenge, disagree. I'm down with any of it.
Let's see. What were some of the other things I wanted to ask you about? There was another thing we had discussed that we were saving it. What was it? Oh my God! It was a qualified immunity. Man, I don't remember. Now that I'm excited to have you on. I can't remember the other thing. We were like, oh, we need to wait for this.
Yeah, this is why I got to start writing things down, man.
I know the memory goes as you get older, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. So, what would you like to see change as far as like the First Amendmenters going out there? If you had to give them some advice, again, give. I know the names are kind of hard to remember, but you might have some that you kind of recommend over others. What would you recommend to them where they took it on board, where they did certain things better and they stopped doing other things? Like, for example, stop going out to torment old people. I mean, yes, you have a right to film outside a mental health facility, but why would you do such a thing? And as far as like, like, let me ask you, like, for example, when they are asked to give their ID rather than go to jail, I always, my position is give your damn ID. You're not, at that point, you've already made your point, right? There's no sense to not give them your ID, even if even if they're in the wrong, because it's never going to go well for you. And you're the one putting yourself out there. And I see these comments going, oh, you should never give your ID. Motherfucker, if I'm out there and I was doing something like that and it was either show your ID or go to jail, yeah, I'm going to give him ID, because at that point, what are you serving? What are you doing? Because nobody's going to give a shit that you went to jail because you didn't give an ID. Nobody, 3 days later is going to forget that it ever fucking happened. You're not some martyr. I guarantee it. So I completely understand when they say, look, I'm giving my ID under duress.
There you go.
And people bitch about that. Those people that are bitching about that, you need to stop.
Well, I do give this personal advice over the phone to people all the time, and they can take it or leave it, because everyone gets to make their own choices. But what I try to tell people is, when all is said and done, you are on your own. Even if I want to help you all the way through this court process of you getting prosecuted for 2 years over some bullshit charges, I can't. There was nobody there to help me every step of the way when it happened to me. And don't get me wrong, there were people who gave me all the support that they possibly could. But the truth is, once it's all said and done, you're on your own. And you're going to court and you're fighting this and you're forking out money. And why? I agree with you. At the point, my goal is always to get them to say, if you don't do this, I'm going to use violence against you. We call it pointing out the gun in the room. In other words, we're saying, look, we know what the law is. We know that I'm not breaking the law, but we also know that you are willing to use violence against me to get whatever you want outside of the law. And to me, that's the win.
Yes.
Is to walk away saying, this guy is willing to violently attack people illegally and unlawfully.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that. As a matter of fact, I want you to even say it again, because that is an important point to make, because that is the win. The win is you have demonstrated that they are willing to use violence in order to get your information, which you're going to get up anyways. You're going to get it one way or another. If they're going to say that they're willing to shoot you, tase you or whatever, they're going to get that idea anyways. You no longer have reasons not to give it up at that point. You made your point. So say it again for the people in the back on that.
I say point out the gun in the room. Point out the gun in the room, that they are willing to threaten you, but get them to articulate it, or at least try to get them to articulate it. I'm sure you guys have seen me do it many times. Well, what are you going to do if I don't?
Yeah.
What will you, and then are you going to put your hands on me? Are you going to hurt me? Are you going to take me to a cage?
Do you notice that they most of the time they don't explicitly say, most of the time, right? They're so, they know they're in the wrong. So they'll be saying, well, bad things might happen, or, well, I'm not going to say that I'm going to do this, but, it could get, go south very quickly. Or they're just going to be saying things. They're never going to, very rarely they say, if you don't do this, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. Or if you don't do this, I'm going to shoot you. If you don't do this, I'm going to attack you to the ground. Some of them have,
Right.
but it's very rare.
And I think that asking them those questions, I think even maybe makes it more real for them. Are you going to put your hands on me? Whoa, wait a second. What?
Right.
I mean, I'm not a violent person is hopefully what they're thinking. Well, why would I hurt you? Well, no, that's what if you're not going to hurt me, then I'm not going to comply.
Exactly.
Oh, well, then I will hurt you. There was an instance actually that I had like that with this guy called Sergeant Jones in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he told me that he wanted me to go somewhere else and that it was a lawful order. And I asked him, well, what law? If you're saying it's a lawful order, then it means that the order is backed by a law. What law is it that backs your order? And he said, well, it just circular conversation. Well, I said it, so it's a law, basically.
Making shit
And
up.
I said, okay, well, what are you going to do to me if I don't obey? And he says, you'll be subject to arrest. I said, well, fair enough. You're telling me that you're going to physically put your hands on me and attack me for not breaking a law? And then I asked him, what are you going to do if I defend myself against your unlawful attack? And just question, though. I mean, you don't ever say that you're going to do it. But, just to get them to think, like, where does this go when we all start putting our hands on each other and attacking each other? Where does this end up?
And that would be my advice to give to auditors. Again, take it for what it's worth. Well, I'm a fucking nobody or whatever. But here's my advice. If you are being arrested, no matter how right you are, let it happen. You're not going to win ever, and you will always get a resisting of the arrest charges, because resisting arrest is not dependent upon an initial charge. Your initial charge can be blatantly wrong. It can be fabricated. It can be thrown out. But if you are arrested, even if it's found unlawfully on arrest, you still can be charged with resisting arrest. It serves nobody. You fight it in court. You don't fight it in the street. You will never, 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 ever win in that situation. Go ahead. And then somebody asked me a question.
Let me say, this isn't legal advice or even personal advice, but the only people who actually get lawsuits and win them are people who were physically injured during the arrest. You take that for what you will.
Yeah, you're right.
You take that for what you will, but I'm not recommending that you get physically injured during an arrest.
No, but you're right on that. That seems to be the ones that win. And by the way, as you pointed out, the going through the legal process on your own sucks. Now, luckily, I had some support when I took Kyle to court over this channel and the $60,000 he sold from the fans. I had some support, and luckily, he was found liable for fraud, fraudulent conversion, unfair and deceptive trade practices, breach of fiduciary duty, and breach of contract. And I got a $150,000 judgment out of it, which he only has to pay a portion of. But if he misses a payment, then it all comes due, which probably will happen eventually. But be that as may, I had some support with it, but it was 2.5 years. And I'm in another lawsuit with somebody who's defamed me that other people have sued as well, that I have no support on hardly. Because it's defamation, right? So it's not like I have people helping me with the GoFundMe and things of that nature. They are supported, but as far as like putting themselves in the situation I'm in, having to defend myself against, the defamation against me. Yeah, I don't have any in real life support other than my roommate. But I appreciate all the people that are out there that agree with me and that have helped me, but it's still, they're not with me. Does that make sense, James?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So I don't want to denigrate that. I'm not saying I don't have support, but it's a lot different when you're sitting there and you're fucking going, oh my God, this is a lot of fucking shit that I'm dealing with in order to get justice.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I've had people stand by me and help me the whole way through all of my cases too, to the maximum extent that they could. But you still, no matter what, feel like, well, shit, I'm the only one who, if I'm convicted on this, I'm the only one going to prison.
Let me answer this question.
It feels alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm well aware of that. Yeah. Now somebody asked me a question, although my mod just timed them out for some reason. I'll look to see why in a second. But somebody had asked me.
I hope that wasn't me. I clicked the phone. Am I a mod?
No, you don't get that kind of power.
Okay, good. Because I double-clicked the phone and I thought that I accidentally pushed a button and did something wrong.
Are you fucking insane? You think I'm going to give you control here? Holy shit!
No, I'll block everyone who agrees with me.
Yeah. Do you want mod? I like to burn the. I'm one of those let the world burn thing. You want mod? I'll give you mod. I know what you would do with it, but whatever.
No, don't mod me.
But
I have 0 mods on my channel.
Somebody had asked me, do I think they should ban AR-15s? No, I do not think they should ban AR-15s. I personally don't think that the vast majority of people require such a weapon. Doesn't mean you can't own them. Doesn't mean you can't, use them. But my thing is, I see no reason why you would need an AR-15 traveling down some populated area. And so if the laws change to say, look, you cannot open carry AR-15s in the public, I'm okay with that. They're not prohibiting you from owning it. They're not prohibiting you from transporting it. They're not prohibiting you to use it on your own land. But this open carry for assault rifles, if that changed, I'd be quite fine with that personally.
I don't know if they're assault rifles either.
Well, okay, they're technically not. AR-15 is not considered legally. It's not considered an assault. I call it an assault type of weapon. It's not an assault weapon, but it is an assault type of weapon. Does that make sense?
I
it's
agree.
a nuance.
I've got a couple of assault type knives as well.
Yeah. I mean, no, seriously, that's fine, right? Yeah.
I only use them to assault people. Like when my wife talks back, you know what I mean?
No, but seriously, there are some knives that are more tailor made for weapons than it is for other things. I mean, you take a knife that when you're going to use to fillet a fish over, something like a Marine's knife. They're for different purposes, right?
Yeah, the fillet knife is definitely for torturing, whereas the Marine's knife is more for a quick kill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See? So I do think that certain weapons have, different uses. Like, for example, as you know, if you have a weapon with a large amount of power, like a 45, that's for stopping. If you hit somebody even in the leg with a large caliber weapon that has a lot of power, a slow moving projectile, but it's massive, you're going to cause that person to stop what they're doing and go down. But a 22 caliber, which is a very small bullet, has an incredible amount of power to kill you because of the ricochet from it. So it really depends on what your goal is. Now they'll all cause, all will harm, but an AR-15, what's the size of the exit wound for an AR-15 on a human body? It's about the size, of an orange?
Oh, I have no idea.
You of all people? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, this is self-incrimination time, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Right? Yeah.
How would I know, Steve?
I haven't shot anybody with it yet. I don't think I ever will.
Yeah.
But,
and hopefully you never do, again, because when you do, at that moment your life has changed. You know that there's going to be consequences whether you're found innocent or guilty. Right. I mean, look at Kyleittenhouse. He was acquitted, but his life was forever changed. Oh
yeah. Yeah, and even more so than going through the court process too, it's that you took a life, and so if there was any other option, I would think that one would be pretty severely internally damaged from that.
Yes,
I mean that's just me though. I guess maybe there's some psychopaths who can just drop, turn bodies cold and sleep good that night.
It would always affect you to some way. Now, myself, and I have to really be straightforward on this myself. If it was a just kill where I had to protect somebody, would it bother me? Yeah, just like any human being. But would I regret it? Would I dwell on it? Would it haunt me? Probably not.
Yeah, agreed. Same.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there are sociopaths that wouldn't probably think twice about it, right? They don't value human life. I think life is valuable, and for somebody to lose their life over something, there needs to be significant reasons for that.
Yeah, to me, the only one is that they were going to take a life, and
right,
if it's like Tupac said,
or harm somebody,
it's my life or your life, and I'm a blast first.
Yeah, or commit excessively bodily harm, and so absolutely in those cases, defend yourself 100%. But again, most of us are not put in those situations, and even though that I deal with some pretty mentally unwell people in loss prevention. There hasn't raised any flags that, there's going to be of altercations, but we all know they could be, right? There have been people that have produced knives. There was one person that flashed a gun just from a building around the corner a couple nights ago. Okay. So it can happen, right? I mean, they didn't like shoot anybody, but they did definitely flash a gun. That's disconcerting, right? So here we go. Oh my God, I got a super chat, dude. Super chat.
Heck yeah.
Yes, thank you for the super chat. Yay, go wild. Dimsum for $10 Canadian says, If after a year of BIM and the left riots, you still don't know why you need 30 round mag, then you probably need to drop to your knees crying you were wrong because someone didn't like your opinion. Well, here's the thing, though. Again, 30 round mags and high capacity mags and things of that nature, you cannot use for property. Again, you cannot use deadly force for property. If BLM's out there and they're killing people, which I've never that then you might have a point, but you cannot use a 30 round mag to start shooting people because they're rioting, unfortunately. And I don't mean unfortunately in a way like I think we should go out and shoot somebody, but I mean unfortunately for the people that want to be able to use weapons in that capacity, which I don't think that you should. I don't think you should use deadly force.
I'm glad he brought that up, because I'm going to actually go ahead and disagree to some extent. I own a business, and that business is how I survive and feed myself and my kids. If the damage that you're trying to do to my property is going to be so extensive that I'll no longer be able to support myself, I'll warn you first, but I'm not going to say I wouldn't take a life at that point.
Oh man, this is a gray area. Okay.
And that's to me, that would come down to a personal decision for each person. But if I genuinely believe that your actions, even though they're not going to take my life today, are going to make my children starve tomorrow, I can't say I'm not going to squeeze the trigger there.
Let me think about this, because this is, for one thing, you're in a homestead, right? It's your property. You're not defending somebody else's property, right? Which was, I think, the situation that he's talking about, right?
Right. And previously, I've owned a business, and so let's say just hypothetically that my business is a car dealership. No, I mean, it depends on a lot of factors, really, because if I own a car dealership, all my stuff is actually insured. So I'm not going to take a life over that. It would have to be a situation where what the damage you're going to do to me is I cannot recover from it for whatever reason. And, during the BLM riots too, a lot of people had lost their insurance because their businesses had been forced to shut down because of the thingy. What do we call it?
We're going to call it, what are we going to call it? What was somebody called it the coop? We're going to call it the coof.
Okay.
The coof.
So, so a lot of businesses had been forced to shut down because of the coof, and therefore they didn't have insurance. And so if you did burn down their business, it wasn't covered. They were already suffering. So, I mean, in instances like this, I can't say I'm not going to defend my property if it sustains my life.
Yeah, okay, and you make a valid point. So let me ask you this, and this really goes down the legalities. Okay, there's two questions to be asked when it comes to these types of things. There's a legal question and there's an ethical question, right? And not always
Absolutely.
they're sometimes they're not the same thing. We all agree upon that, right?
Yep.
All right, so legally speaking, if let's say like somebody's about to throw a Molotov cocktail in your home. You're not in your home, so you're not in the line of fire. If you're in the line of fire, then you have every right to shoot that person because they could kill you, right? But if you're not in your home, you're outside of your house, and you see somebody's about to throw a Molotov cocktail into your home, are you allowed at that point to use deadly force? Now, ethically, there's some gray area. Ethically, I think it's everybody's decision for themselves. I would agree with you on that, okay? I think that there is a reason to ethically say, look, this is my home, everything I'm in it, they're destroying my livelihood, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I can make an ethical argument for that, okay? But legally, I don't think there's any law in the books that says you can't. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so if anybody has any legal training on that, by all means. What do you think, though?
I remember a story from a while back in Texas where a cop chased somebody down and killed them because they stole the back seat out of his Suburban. And I remember the questions that came up during that time about, did he have a right to defend his property? And if I'm not mistaken, what I believe I learned is that as far as Texas law goes, the question is, could you possibly have recovered your property at a later time or date? And so I believe that in Texas, legally, you were allowed to kill someone if they were going to take your property, and there was a reasonable person would believe that they would never be able to recover from the loss.
So if somebody steals your bubble gum out of your back pocket, you can kill them in Texas? That doesn't sound
it
right
would,
to me.
it would have to be, from what I understood, and I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. But
Yeah, we're not
from what
giving
I
legal
understood,
advice here.
you would have to be able to prove that you would have never been able to recover that property again. So I think it would be difficult to prove that you couldn't recover bubble gum. It wouldn't even have to be that piece, right? You could get a new piece of bubble gum.
Yeah.
And I think it would be hard to argue that you couldn't get restitution on that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that there is castle doctrine, and there's the stand your ground laws, and I get that. And again, I think there's something to be said by, look, if somebody is about to destroy my home, then is deadly force authorized? Ethically, I could make that argument. Yeah, I can go with that. But again, I don't know, obviously, the law well enough, especially because it probably varies from place to place. In Texas, well, Texas is unique, right? Because like in Texas, you can open carry. You pull that shit here, you're going to die. They're going to shoot you here where I live. I'm not even fronting with you, dude.
In that instance of somebody trying to destroy your house, I think that if the law was that you would, your damages couldn't be recovered, if your home was uninsured for whatever reason, I would think that in that case, under Texas law, it would probably be legally justified. And then, again, that's still going to become an ethical question, which, I mean, to me, I prefer to look at ethics rather than legality.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I do too.
Legally, we used to be allowed to own black people, right? And so,
yeah, no, I agree with you. 100%.
Ethics.
No, I absolutely, dude, I 100% agree with you. Just because something is law doesn't make it ethical by any stretch of imagination. For that, and like you said,
right.
We all denounce slavery. That was never. I tend to what's called a moral realism. To me, slavery was always wrong at all times, all places. It's not in historical context. It's not in culture context. It is fundamentally wrong. Period. And if people that want to talk about moral theory, they come to my other channel to talk about that. But that's how I view things, right? So when it comes to that, even though there's a law that says you can do this, right? Does it make it ethical?
Right.
So yes, I do think ethics is more important. But also at the same token, there are ramifications. But sometimes you might have to weigh those. Is this, do I rather, what's the old expression? Do I rather like be tried by a jury by 12? Carried by 6, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm really surprised nobody wanted to come into this hangout, though. Nobody wanted to join us. I'm not even fronting with you. I'm actually really surprised. I thought at least one person would go, God damn it, that James he's going to be out. Oh yeah, I got some shit to say to him.
Where's Mike the Cop at when you need him, right?
I like Mike the Cop. You got problems with Mike the Cop?
I don't really consume much of his content. I've seen a lot of things he puts up that I agree with, and a lot of things that I don't.
That's fine, but you got to admit he's funny. The guy's entertaining.
Oh yeah. He's got a good sense of humor. I love that.
Yeah.
Yep. And I like humor, so. And I don't think he's a cop anymore. I could be wrong.
No, he. From what I understand, I have talked to Mike the Cop before. From what I understand, I think he left the force. What was the reason?
They were.
Oh my God, what was it? Do you remember the reason why he left? He left, and it was over something, and it was very specific.
I think a lot of guys were teasing him for being gay, weren't they?
No, I don't think that was it.
No.
That's why you're about to leave the internet. Don't you know you're canceled?
Yeah. Because people keep making fun of me for being gay. No, I can't remember why he left. I do think he's funny. I'm just teasing, man.
Yeah, he's funny.
I don't remember why, because I don't follow him that closely
what was
either.
The reason? I remember because I last time I talked to him it was about this too. I have to look at my DMs somewhere. Anyways, Dim Sum says, someone comes into your car at a red light with a gun. Can you kill them? Fuck yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're threatening deadly force. They're threatening life at that point.
Yeah, you got a gun pointed at you. But here's the thing, though. You got to be real careful when you have a gun aimed at you. The chances of you being able to pull out your weapon and kill them before they pull that trigger is pretty well insignificant.
Yeah.
Unless you've been trained to pull weapons.
Your car?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it means like a carjacking, but he has a gun out with you. It's at that point, it's not just him trying to get the car. Your life is in danger. You have a weapon pointing out at you. Your life is in danger. Period. What's one of these 5 safety things? You never point a gun at something you don't intend to shoot.
Yeah.
So yes, at that point, yes, absolutely, I would defend myself. Oh my God, we have another super chat.
I think I might not defend myself just because, like you said, that's a tough win when they've already drawn and you haven't.
Right. Yeah, unless you're like really pro at it. By the way,
or if you've seen him walking up behind you in your rear view mirror, and so you're already drawn. So by the time he gets to your window, you know.
Pop.
Yep.
James, I'm getting rich here. I'm getting rich. I made like $12 so far on this stream. Holy crap!
Just wait until YouTube takes their cut. You'll be broke.
I gotta keep you around, James. Throw the dwarf at the House of Torg. Hey, buddy, how you been? He says for $5 Australian. Where I live, you can get in trouble for hurting the person that broke into your home. Yes, dude. You ain't bullshitting. There are actually laws on the books that if you like, for example, you cannot booby trap your house, right? Even though it's your home.
So I got to remove those landmines.
Yeah, even though it's your home and you cannot booby trap things. Even though it's your property to do with what you want, you cannot booby trap. And if for example, James, if somebody breaks in your house and they slip and fall on something or something like that, there are some places that you can sue for that. It's like,
so is that one of those instances
bizarre
where you should use deadly force to make sure that they can't? I mean, dead people don't sue, right?
Well, okay, it's funny you mentioned that, James. No, I'm pleading the fifth. No, I'm kidding. So no, it is funny you mentioned that because when I was growing up, we had this like running joke, right? That if you shoot somebody in California, was it California or Florida? I think it was California. But it was if you shoot somebody and they're outside, right? You drag them into your house, right?
Right.
Make sure there's no blood trail. But you put them. They're inside your property rather than the outside property, or what's it called? Oh my God, I'm drawing. What's the name of the area right outside oh my God, James, the just outside your house, the starts with a C. What's that called? I don't know.
The area just outside of your house?
Yeah, the college
starts with a C?
Yeah.
Only word I know that starts with a C is cunt.
That's not it. You're not Australian. You can't say that unless you're Australian. You know what? Somebody in the live chat room, I'm drawing complete blank. The curtilage.
The area right outside of your house starts with a C.
The curtilage.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
okay.
so that part of that property is even on your homestead. The castle law only is if they're in your house and then you're threatened with deadly force, then you can shoot them. Right? But if they're on your doorstep, then at the time, I don't know how things are now, but at the time you couldn't shoot them even if they had a gun pointed at you, kind of stuff, or something on the line. And so this is like an old joke. Just before the cops get there, you just kind of bring them over the threshold. You know, make sure they fall inwards. You know, not backwards.
Right. Yeah, that's only in California. In Texas, you can definitely shoot them on the property.
Texas is all kinds of like stuff. If you find somebody with your wife in bed, you can blow them away.
and really,
cuts down adultery, I guess.
Right. And anywhere you can do any of this stuff as long as you don't get caught.
Well, isn't that how it is? But then again, it goes to ethics, right? I mean,
right.
I don't. Here's the thing: I don't break laws because they're laws. I don't break laws because most of them I find it'd be unethical to break. You know. Now, I'm not saying that there are no laws being broken. I'll jaywalk like a motherfucker. I would jaywalk to go to work, kind of stuff. But
you slow down for stop signs because you don't want to hurt somebody, right?
Yes.
Not because it's a law, but because you don't want to damage yourself or others.
And I'm not one of those like lead foot drivers. I haven't driven in a long time, but even when I was driving, I don't like speed. I'll put it at 60 miles an hour and I'll stay on the slow lane. I'll be quite happy. With the truckers, I don't like going like 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. I'm not saying that I haven't before, but you know, it's just I don't want to go that fast. You know.
Yeah, I slowed down when I started pulling a 10,000-pound trailer across the country with a big truck.
I
said that.
What's that? You had where was this?
Yeah, I said I don't need to do what I did before on motorcycles doing 150 plus.
Oh God, no.
65 is good.
No, That's a death sentence. Somebody had asked, I am hip says, I would hold out a juror. Do you know what jury nullification is? Absolutely. Jury nullification is basically, even though there's not a legal standing for them to acquit, they do so anyways. They basically nullify the law.
That's a double-edged sword as well, which is why I try not to talk about jury nullification that much. Not only can a jury choose not to convict someone who is guilty of a written law, they can choose to convict somebody who's not guilty of anything.
Correct.
And I watched that happen with my buddy Bao, where a jury literally convicted this guy of something where the prosecution proved zero of the elements of the crime were committed by this guy.
Was it on appeal, though? That would be almost a given appeal.
I mean, he could have appealed it. Sure, maybe. Again, that's just,
more process
going through the court system, though.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, well, how much money do you have?
Right.
And he had already, they held him in jail pending trial. And so he was convicted with time served. So, it's.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I don't see the point of spending time in jail to make a point. Because again, nobody's going to care. And I'm realizing this the hard way, James. I really am. Because even in my own lawsuits, even if I was to get a full jury to say, hey, look, yes, Steve was defamed. Is anybody going to care other than me? Probably not.
Right.
They already know that I was telling the truth. They already know that the other person had lied. It's not even a matter of facts and evidence. It's a matter of, facts and evidence. I mean, the person had admitted they were wrong on multiple things. The only one thing that they didn't admit that they were wrong on, which I happen to have evidence they were on, but everything else they had admitted, yes, they were wrong on. But they continued to make those allegations afterwards.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so it's bizarre, right? I mean, when somebody says, hey, look, I apologize. I didn't mean, James, to falsely accuse you of fraud, medical fraud, Social Security fraud, which I've never collected, and disability fraud. I'm sorry, James, I didn't mean to do that. I just was listening to everybody else, and I found out they were lying to me. And then later on go, oh, hey, by the way, James, you were trying to defraud the government. You were trying to defraud medical. You're trying to defraud Social Security, which you never collected, and defraud disability, because they feel like emboldened to do so, even though they know it was 100% bullshit.
Yeah. The thing that sucks about court too is, I mean, what kind of damages are you going to prove in there? And what are you going to win?
I could prove about $8,000 in damages so far. I could prove that, but defamation per se, you're not required to prove damages. You only have to prove that the elements of the defamation existed. But I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm watching some of these other court cases and they're taking years to go to trial. And
right.
The costs are just so goddamn prohibitive. And I'm still spending money for legal fees. And I'm like, holy shit, this is like fucked that you have to do that to get justice.
Yeah. It's pretty broken, huh? Or
it's
is it
fucking
not?
broken. Or is
it just working exactly as designed?
Exactly designed. I mean, the only people, again, that can really afford the kind of stuff are people like the Johnny Depps of the world. And by the way, huge props to Johnny Depp. I know exactly what it's like to be falsely accused, and it sucks. It really sucks, because one of the co-hosts on this channel had falsely accused me of sexual harassment, which never fucking happened. And people know it never fucking happened. I even have our communications where it never fucking happened, and she outright lied about it to get on the whole Me Too movement. But you know what? But I recognize that there are always going to be people that are always going to believe Amber Heard, no matter what. No matter what. There's always
no matter how many times she shits the bed, Yep.
And there's always going to be people believe this other person who have been falsely accused me of these other things, and that had been involved in multiple other lawsuits. People have been suing her for defamation, like Todd Chrisley and 7M Productions are suing her. But even still, there's going to be that few people that it doesn't matter. They're the Amber Heard supporters of the world, and those are the people I don't give a flying fuck about.
Right.
Because they're not going to change their opinion no matter what. I mean, Jesus Christ could come down himself and say, "Look, Steve didn't do any of these things," and they'd be like, "Fuck you, Jesus," By the way, I'm pretty non-religious on this channel, to say the least.
Oh, yeah. I've caught a lot of your shows.
You watch my stuff?
Yeah, yep.
I'm fanboying. I'm fanboying.
I hardly follo anything religiously, but yeah, I've caught a lot of your shows. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping
a lot of
to
the
get
flat Earth
stuff.
debates.
Oh
a
my
lot
god.
Of theism versus atheism, and
you like that shit?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you read? I have a paper out. I actually wrote a paper. It's on.
I don't know how to read. That's why I watch your shows.
Well, you could have it. There's a program that will actually read it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Or there's you can call up a friend. Say, hey, friend, can you read this to me while I try to fall asleep? Because it's 10 pages. So at some point you're probably going to pass out. But yeah, I wrote a paper. I put it on Academic EDU because Dr. Malik had suggested. I said, look, there's no reason for me to wait to publish this in a journal. I don't want to spend thousands of dollars. I'm not an academic. What good? Who's going to give a flying fuck if I publish in a journal or not? It's at that point, it is probably more egocentric. And I had to come to that determination that, yeah, who the fuck cares? Nobody's going to care if it's published. I get bragging rights. Yes, I'm got peer review. I'm not a PhD candidate. Who the fuck cares? But he said, hey, put it to academic edu. And I did. And you know what, James? In the last week, that paper is in the top 5%, top 0.5% of all the papers read on the site. It has over 550 reads already. The top 0.5%.
Wow.
So yes, I have bragging rights on that. So
congratulations, man. That is awesome.
Thank you. I think it's good paper. But anyways, nobody gives a shit.
Dropping a link to it in the chat.
I could do that.
You can send me a link later. You can send me a link.
Yeah, I'll put it for the outside too, and I'll put it in the video description. But
because I don't know how to read again, so I'm not likely going to be able to type and search it up.
Well, it's a lot of symbols. Do you read Greek? It's a lot of math.
No, not anymore.
There's math and logic in it. So that
I'm not going to get it then.
I've had numerous people. I've had multiple people read it. PhDs, logic experts. They've all agreed that it's logically valid and sound. One person found one minor typo, and I fixed it, and I re-uploaded my paper because I'm right. But they went through the logic step by fucking step. But you know how I know that a paper is good? When they're able to say, "Hey, Steve, I think this is what you meant, but you have a typo here," and they're able to logically follow the steps to see the error. And once that error is corrected, they know it's all flow, right? So
yeah.
Oh, we got a question for you. Go ahead. And I got a question for you.
Yeah, I'll at the very least, I'm going to send it to a friend of mine.
Do it.
Who's
wait, smart
kind
people?
of a smart people.
Really?
yeah. My buddy Patrick Smith, over at the Disenthrall show.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's I'm sure he'll enjoy it.
Does he do philosophy?
What's the paper about?
Oh, it's called. Well, I'll just read the title for you. Ready for this?
Yeah.
How the presumption of atheism by way of semantic square of opposition leads to a semantic collapse.
Awesome. Makes no sense to me. I'm sure he'll love it. He's also an atheist, and he's a voluntarist also.
But here's the thing. First of all, I'm not an atheist. I'm an agnostic. Okay, so get it right.
Okay. I think he is too, actually.
But I also know a voluntarist that you might be familiar with that has been on the show before, by the name of Adam Kokesh.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And by the way, he's going to come on again. Matter of fact, oh my God, dude, seriously, I'm gonna kind of like put you on the spot here. If Adam Kokesh comes back on, because he said he will, would you co-host with me on that particular episode?
Absolutely.
Oh yes.
I'm supposed to be getting in touch with his producer to be on his show too, and I still haven't done that because I'm a lazy piece of shit. But I mean, if you just send me a link, yes, I will jump on your show anytime.
I'll get it worked out. I need to get back to him. Because oh man, I don't know if you ever watched that episode with Adam, but it was it was actually cited at one time in Wiki.
I'm even glad you brought this up because we originally we were talking about auditors or alleged auditors or whatever you want to call it, right? I think Adam Kokesh really is kind of one of the originals of doing the type of stuff that these so-called auditors are doing today.
A lot of his, I mean, he definitely was one of those hand grenade, kind of firebrand kind of activist. He was definitely an activist,
right?
And a huge libertarian, obviously. So, yep, I think he laid the framework for that. Sure.
Yeah, I think it was him and one other person that I always forget his name, out of Texas, who also was going around and originally started this thing of recording government buildings just to record them and see their ridiculous reactions. And I can't remember, I always forget his name, but it was once again another libertarian. And he was going to DEA buildings and recording. And then when they'd come out and ask, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, what can you tell me about the drug war?"
Oh, was that and they didn't want him filming the undercover cars?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, these cars are used for undercover work, but they're in the fucking public.
Yeah, and this guy, I mean, this was way before auditing was known of or had a name. He had cut a phone out of a block of wood, and he was holding it to his ear while driving through a school zone. I mean, all these ideas kind of came from these old school guys, and it kind of became a little more mainstream.
There's a question for you by Savage Mexican. He asked you question. James Freeman, how can I get a hold of you?
Oh my God. So Savage Mexican comes into every single one of my live streams, Steve, and asks how he can get a hold of me.
And you tell him, and he never does.
Actually, the first time he finally did was a couple days ago when I finally called him out on it. And I said, every single time you come in, you ask how you can get a hold of me. I give you my email address, realjamesfreeman@gmail.com, and I never see an email from you. And finally that day he emailed me.
So why is he asking again?
I think it's just a joke now.
Okay. So it's an inside joke. I get you.
But yeah, for everyone else, it's realjamesfreeman@gmail.com. Send your videos that you want me to post of cop interactions. Send your dick pics, whatever.
That's how I got James to come on this channel. It wasn't my pick that I sent him, but he didn't care.
It was big and it was black. I clicked it. You know what I mean?
Like, hey, I'll take it. You got to pay to play, right? So whatever. I don't judge. But anyways, yeah, we got 90 minutes, so we'll kind of wrap it up. Nobody wants to come in here and confront you. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, no, James, like I said, I really appreciate you coming in. I'm definitely going to get in touch with you with if I get Anna back on, and there's some other things that I'm sure we'll have discussions on. I appreciate you shouting this out on your channel and on your whatever stream. If you can get people to come over and watch some of the stuff that you watch on this channel, like the flat Earth stuff and the atheist theist stuff, I think a lot of people would get interest in it because I don't promote. I suck at promotion. Because I'm about the content, right? And so promotion is a whole different skill set that I do not fucking have. So if anything you do to like help promote this channel, as far as like people just watch to be entertained, I'm definitely appreciative of it.
Yeah, I absolutely will. I'm glad. I'm really glad that you won your lawsuit.
Thank you.
That this is your show now.
100%.
And yeah, I think over the past couple of years, really the biggest reason I haven't come on, even though I was kind of ready to just come on, is that it was kind of in limbo for quite a few years, right?
Yeah, it was in limbo because we were fighting for the rights of the show, and he did steal all that money, and I did get a confession of judgment. He did give me all the rights and everything in the show. He did confess that because I got triple damages out of it. He had submitted false evidence to the court. He altered bank records. He altered photographs of things like for Amazon, and so. He was held. There was 2 counts of criminal contempt and 1 count of civil contempt. Now I don't know if those can come back or not. I have asked my attorney, but I haven't got a direct response whether we can reinitiate the criminal contempt charges. But we can reopen the case, and that what would we do is we have in the court case, we've asked to have it disposed, or what are they called, when you're end of the court case, whatever the term was, but we have that removed, and then what we do is we file the confession of judgment with the court, and that means I can start going after him to get the $115,000 by writ of not garnishment, but writ of execution and other things, and maybe drag him back into court to answer probative questions, right? And so if he doesn't make good on that confession of judgment, we have legal recourse. So the court case is not over. Because court case is over, so to speak, unless he defaults on the confession of judgment. Then all we do is we move the last thing we filed. We ask for that to be removed, and we continue as if the court case never was resolved. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. People are like going, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" It's a long story, guys. Go watch the Death of Non-Sequitur show on the Steve McRae channel if you really want details.
It's a years long story. Right?
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Or look it up at Forbes.com. Forbes.
Yeah, I'm glad to start trying to send people your way now, though, so you can start reviving this show and bringing it back, because I loved it. I loved listening to you back, and I've been watching you on your other channel, but I'm excited to see this show get revived. So
thank you, and I want to do stuff on auditing as well, because again, it's just this weird thing that I have watching it. I find it fascinating. So if you have auditors that you recommend, send them my way. I would definitely have them on, and if there's
I'll try to send other people your way too. I mean, it's the Non-Sequitur Show, right?
Do it.
I know all kinds of people who have lots of interesting topics.
I got low standards. I'll take anybody, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what the Non-Sequitur Show was, right? Yeah. It's not necessarily, this week has nothing to do with last week, right? It's
absolutely. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, we
Let's have
did
some interesting conversations, right?
we didn't want to have like a niche, so we were all over the place on who we would have on and what the topics would be for that very reason. And if there's any auditors in my area, because I mean, people know that I live in the Indio area, California, which would include Coachella, Palm Desert, Palm Springs. If you're in that area and you're one of these auditors, I would love to do a ride along kind of stuff and go out and just hang out. That'd be awesome. I know there's a what's this called, Coachella Valley Cop Watch, but I've never.
Yes, I've heard of Coachella Valley.
Yeah, because I'm in the Coachella Valley, but I think they're up more north. I think they're up more like Desert Hot Springs, which is quite a distance. But anyways, James, like I said, I'm going to wrap this up because my voice is shot. I made my $12 for the show. Yes, I'm going to retire. Big money. But before we go, announce where they can find your channels. I already put them in the video description. And so if you're like the Non-Sequitur Show fans, go subscribe to James. Go watch his stuff. They're entertaining. They're entertaining streams. I'm always like, is James gonna get tased? It's like, come on, is James gonna get tased? Come on. I'm such a dick.
At this point, I'm a sissy, and I just make phone calls from my own home, and I talk to them over the phone where they can't touch me and poke and prod at them that way. I call it being an aggressive pussy, where I'm being totally aggressive, but you can't touch me because I'm being a pussy.
Can't touch this, exactly. So
aggressive pussy.
Your friend Savage Mexican said, non sequitur, can you let James Freeman say? I said, thank you for his email. Okay, but you've already sent him something on his email, so you already had it. I don't ask questions. I don't know. Anyway, James, I'm going to end this call. I'm going to do the outro. And I'm going to go probably pass out because it's hot here. But once again, buddy, good talking to you again. I'm going to be in touch with you in the next couple days as soon as I find out from Adam when he's able to come on, and we can arrange something, hopefully maybe like next month or something, or 3 or 4 weeks from now. Sound good?
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Steve.
All right, James, you have a great night tonight, and thank you all for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. Please comment, because I really like reading the comments, especially on things like this. I like to know your guys' opinions on these things. I try to respond to every opinion that deserves a response. But definitely go subscribe to James Freeman. Go watch his stuff. I've been a fan for his for a while. He's actually a pretty decent guy. But last time, again, people may not go. People be like, "Oh my God, Steve says somebody's nice." That may not be good for your channel. So I just canceled James Freeman. I just canceled James Freeman. All right, good night, guys. Bye. See you later, James.